Today I'm taking Damian back to the 70s for Phantom of the Paradise, a perfect movie for this time of season.
Is it perfect?
I think it's pretty damn perfect.
Yeah, well, you think some real sinkers are perfect, so...
Find out what we think
What
right
am I
after
in
this.
for?
Hello and welcome to the Damian and Devlin Show. Today we are reviewing Phantom of the Paradise. A 1974 drama comedy musical directed by Brian De Palma and starring Paul Williams, William Finley, Garrett Graham, and Jessica Harper. Now, this is one of my all-time favorite movies. It was a movie that came out and did not do well at all. In fact, it was a flop, and it has since become a cult classic. In fact, a lot of people actually consider this better than Rocky Horror, but this still gets some love from some people. I have seen it many times. This was Damian's very first time. I didn't think he would enjoy it, but we will find out. What was your first initial thoughts taking you through Phantom of the Paradise?
So you would constantly go, I don't know if you're going to like this or you're going to hate this. Constantly things like that before we ever even got to thinking about sitting down.
Guilty.
And you know what? So I went into it thinking I'm not going to like it. He knows me pretty well, but I am happy to say this is one of the times where you did not predict correctly. I actually quite enjoyed this movie.
I like that, actually.
I'm glad that you liked it. I'll explain why in a little bit more detail later, but as you mentioned, I'm one of those ones that thinks this is a much better movie than Rocky Horror Picture Show.
For those of you who don't know about this movie, Phantom of the Paradise is basically a retelling of Phantom of the Opera, but actually it's more of a story about Faust and a little Dorian Gray in there. There is a little Phantom of the Opera in here, but mostly it follows the story of Faust. Basically, a musician desperately wants to get his music produced, and a big record producer comes along and steals it from him and basically destroys his life, and he tries to wreak havoc on the opening of his big new rock opera center called the Paradise. And so that is the gist of it, and that's really all it is. But it's also more than that, because it's also a great satire of the music industry. It deals with everything from instant stardom to people rising to the top, or how one thing is popular one week and then next week it's something totally different. They do some really good biting humor in this. This was written and directed by Brian De Palma, and I think he does a great job in both aspects. And all the music was done by Paul Williams, who plays Swan in this movie. Anyhow, you know I'm going to gush about the movie, so I'm going to turn it over to Damian so he can tell you what he really liked about the movie.
You know, the movie, going into it, at first I thought, what is this movie going to be about? I had no idea. None of the actors struck any kind of familiarity with me. I had no idea who's the guy that plays Swan?
Paul Williams.
I had no idea who Paul Williams was. You had to educate me on the fact that he was this big music producer, songwriter in the 70s. And with all of this information in mind, I had a complete blank slate. I had no idea what to expect with this movie. So going into it, I could either go one way or it could go the other way. And for its credit, it really sucked me in within the first few minutes, because it starts off with a kickin' 1950s-esque rock song by the Juicy Fruits, which is this band that's going huge all over the world. And it just really sucked me in. And now you were very, very clear that this is not a musical. It is a, what did you say?
It's more of a drama comedy, but
That's
there's
right.
a lot of music in it. It's not like where Rocky Horror is, let's sing this song, let's sing this song.
And I will agree with that. After seeing it, it's totally not a musical. It's just music accompanies the entire story.
Because it's about the music industry.
It's about the music industry. So I said at the very end of the movie, I was quite surprised with the fact that all the music in it, I liked. Every single song they played.
You know what?
It was really well done.
in this journey that we've had doing movies, that makes me so happy, because I really didn't know if you would like the Paul Williams slow songs.
I did.
So thank you for that. I thank you for giving this a chance.
Well, of course.
I'm over the moon because of that, because I like when I'm wrong. I like when I'm right too, but I like when I'm wrong. Keep going, gushing.
The music was very good. I enjoyed it. The characters were easy to understand and get into. Swan, obviously being the main villain, yeah, he was creepy. He was slimy. He was perfect for the role. Paul Williams is his name.
Yeah.
He did a great job representing that. And the story that you told me about why he chose to play Swan, I felt was a little on the nose. I'll let you explain that why.
Yeah, well, Paul Williams was actually offered the role of the Winslow Leach Phantom character. And then when he saw Swan, he said, well, you know what? I relate to Swan more, because at the time he was writing hits for Three Dog Night, The Carpenters. He won an Oscar for Barbra Streisand, doing Evergreen. He wrote the Muppet song, The Rainbow Connection. He's written a lot of stuff. And he said at the time he wasn't much to look at, but he was popular because he was rich, he was very famous, and he had a lot of money. So he said he related to Swan, who was using his powers to that, and he did deal with some drug issues and stuff that he eventually got over and got sober. But he said at the time he knew what it was like for drugs and alcohol to lead you down questionable things. Now Swan goes a little further than that, but you could tell he really tapped into the role to get it. So I'm glad they made the choice. And I think William Finley, who plays Winslow Leach the Phantom, does a great job. He didn't really go on to much, but I think he captures that awkwardness that you needed for Winslow Leach, because you didn't want him to look like, I'm awesome, and that he needed to look like somebody like, that guy's gonna sell records.
He was hit and miss with me. So
Okay.
The actor that plays Winslow and the Phantom, he was hit and miss with me. When he was the Phantom, I really, really liked him. I thought he did a great job. They do this awesome kind of Darth Vader-esque thing with his voice, and they even have kind of like a sound box right here on his chest to further add home that Darth Vader feel. And I think that's neat because, correct me if I'm wrong, this came out in 74 and Star Wars came out in 77.
Yes.
So this predates Darth Vader, so you can't even really say that. So it's really, really cool that they decided to go, they were ahead of their time essentially with that.
A little bit, yeah.
I really liked the visuals, but just of the whole Phantom character, I thought his helmet was cool, I thought his outfit was cool. But when he's Winslow himself, I felt, he's kind of over the top with his dorkiness, I felt. I just kind of felt like he was trying way too hard to be, hey, I'm a great musician, but I'm really awkward. My aesthetic pleasure always takes first place. I went to art school. That's the kind of thing that it kind of hit me with, and it rubbed me the wrong way. So when he transitions into the Phantom, it was kind of a breath of relief that I didn't have to deal with Winslow anymore. I was dealing with the Phantom.
Oh, that's fair.
All the other side characters, Phoenix, fantastic. I don't know if she sung her own songs.
Yes, she did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful voice on that woman. I was encapsulated. Even the slow songs, like you said, you weren't sure if I liked them. She sings this really slow song near the end of the movie. She's walking out, and it's the first time she's discovering her fame, so she's kind of starstruck as she's watching the crowd, who are also very intently listening to her.
The song is Old Souls, and you should really look at the lyrics, because they are
It's a beautiful song.
Phenomenal.
Delivered beautifully. So my non-existent hat off to her. She did a great job. The set pieces, it doesn't take place in very many places other than the paradise itself.
Right.
But I felt like the set pieces that they did provide to us, at some point we go to a warden's office in the prison, we go to Death Records HQ itself. I felt it was pretty good. The set pieces and the paradise, of course, it's all about the paradise. Paradise looks awesome too, especially one of my favorite scenes is the Juicy Fruits come out for like the third song of the movie, and they're kind of dressed up like Kiss right before Beef makes his really big debut, and it was beautifully done. It was so cool.
I actually saw the movie several times before I actually figured they were always the groups, even though at the end they say they played the 50s group, they played the 60s group, and then they played the goth glam rock group. And it's awesome that they did that, because they could have just got different people, but I like that they did it. So
it shows clever. That they too are very talented musicians, so I really, really liked it. Culminating in the big dance scene at the very end, whereas Rocky Horror kind of sank with the Titanic for me, I felt this one elevated the movie to an even higher level, because the crowd still doesn't believe what's happening is real. They think it's part of the show, and it just goes off of a line that Swan's character said. It's all entertainment, and they just get lost in it, and I got lost in it too. I really, really, really enjoyed the set pieces, the music, the acting for the most part, and the costumes. It was all wonderful.
I'll go a little bit off your talk of the set pieces, because one of my favorites, I think the Paradise is great, and I think everything looks great, but my favorite was, I always liked the record studio, especially the offices, because there's nothing in it. It looks like something from the future, but it's like the 70s, and I like that it captured that, because it almost says, the record industry is cold, and we have this just like, and I love it. It's just a great moment. I will give one heads up that you didn't mention, because you did a great job talking about everybody else. I actually really enjoy the performance of Garrett Graham as Beef. When you first see him, he's really like, I love that he's supposed to be this edgy rock and roller, and then when you actually hear him talk, it's like, well, what's going on? And I think he doesn't get enough love, because it's a funny role, and he's even like respectful when he gets threatened by the Phantom. He's like, I'm out of here, and of course, contracts, so many contracts in this, and so he has to go on, and I just think when he does his final big performance, I think it's actually really well done. And he apparently, when he did the song Life at Last, apparently he had pneumonia when he did that, and that performance, you would never tell he was sick. Way. And he apparently brought it together at the last minute, so I wanted to say that. Negatives, you mentioned you had some issues with Winslow, so let's go. I do have one negative, so I'll let you do yours first.
Like I said, Winslow's overacting. I'm not going to touch more on that. I noticed a few errors with regards to costume and makeup a few times. The Phantom himself, there's a poster here. I'm going to pull it out so everybody can see. So you can kind of see he's got this mask, and he's got this one really big exposed eye, and he kind of does the Batman thing. He puts makeup on and eyeliner, and it tries to match exactly the grooves on the mask, except for when it doesn't, because it kind of disappears randomly, I noticed, as well as like the scar tissue on the side of his face is there sometimes, and it's not. It's like they said, okay, we're not showing your face this scene, so we're not going to bother putting the makeup on. And I could tell that he had smooth skin when he shouldn't have, whereas we're at the end of the movie, when his mask is off and you see everything that's happened to him, his face is all mangled, so it should be there the entire time. I noticed that. When he takes his mask off, his makeup suddenly disappeared, so those kinds of things brought me out of the movie. There was one, I wouldn't have noticed it right away. I'm sure I would have noticed it eventually, but you pointed it out before it even happened. There's this big press conference they have on an airport, and this really poorly superimposed logo of the Death Records logo is put over something. I'll let you tell the story about that, but it's really distracting because it jumps all over the place.
If you get a chance and you get a copy of the DVD, there's some great documentary stuff, because this is an incredible story. And some of the things in it, like I was telling you, this movie flopped everywhere in the world except Winnipeg, Canada. Winnipeg, Canada loved this movie. It actually made money there, and the producers always knew that and went there. They also were threatened with so many lawsuits. Phantom of the Opera threatened to sue them. That's why they've never made a Broadway musical of this, because Universal claims we own the rights to that and you cannot do it, even though it doesn't really do that. But the thing is originally it was called Swan Song, was the record company, which is based on an album, I believe, by Led Zeppelin, or that was their recording. And they actually saw the script, and the reason they turned it off, I don't want to give any spoilers here, but a character dies, and they actually had a friend that died similar, And that's why they said no. So they said if you don't change the name, so they had to do a last minute thing. And I never used to notice it, but when it came out on Blu-ray, that's when I really noticed that it was really badly
It's
done.
very noticeable.
Yeah.
So
I shouldn't have said anything and seen if you caught it.
like I said, I would have caught it eventually because it does jump around, especially when the camera's zooming out, it jumps around.
Yeah.
And then there are a few shots where you're supposed to be looking as if you're the Phantom at all these security cameras, these like CCTV, except the CCTV cameras like to switch angles on you and then also do dramatic zoom ins and zoom outs. And I was like, what security cameras are doing this?
Yeah,
So
I'll
it
give
made
you
no
that.
sense to me.
I'll
Anyways,
give you
you
that.
go ahead.
I only have one big complaint. It's the only complaint I've had ever since I fell in love with this movie. And I'm thinking you might actually agree with me now. The biggest problem, and it's a big one for me, is if you asked me my favorite soundtracks of all time, this would be in it because I just love the music. They talk through so many of the songs. And there's times where they break up the songs and put horrible tracks on top of it. So here I'm listening to some of the most beautiful written that I personally think of, and many of the songs we don't get to hear. Whereas something like Rocky Horror, they don't interrupt the songs because they realize the songs were important. I wish they did that more because this movie's only 90 minutes long. All they had to do, 10 more minutes, and they could have got all those songs played in full. And it bothers me a lot when movies do that, when they have these incredible songs, and it's supposed to be about the music industry. Anyhow, that is my only problem with this movie. Everything else I absolutely adore.
Well, let me guess what you're going to give this one.
You'll probably be wrong.
Oh, wow, really? I think you're going to give this a 4.5 out of 5.
Yes, you are right.
Wow, yeah,
Yes.
see, little faith.
Yeah, I love this movie to the point that I want to give this a 5, but I think that the fact that this soundtrack gets interrupted too often is a big deal to me, and I want to hear these songs. And yeah, I can go put on my album and CD or whatever, but I really find that a distracting. But 4.5 out of 5, great movie.
It is a very good movie.
I'm intrigued by you now. I predicted this way going to be low on your scale, but
I'll give it a 0 out of 5. No,
Yeah.
I'm kidding. In all honesty, I did not expect much from this movie, but I ended up really enjoying it. I'm giving it a 4 out of 5.
Okay, even when you said you liked it, I was still going
4 out
only.
of 5.
He's not going to get up to 3.5. Oh my
out
God,
of
Damian,
5.
you have made my day, my year.
Happy
okay?
Thanksgiving.
Anyhow, well, that's our review, and we hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it inspires you to find this movie because it is really good, and I think all generations can really find something out of this movie.
Definitely. Give it a shot. Give it a chance. Have you seen Phantom of the Paradise? Let us know down in the comments below. Make sure to share this with your friends so they can get in on the action as well. And make sure you subscribe so you never miss a beat. Thanks so much for joining us with Phantom of the Paradise. Stay tuned because you never know what's coming up next.
20th Century Fox presents Phantom of the Paradise.
Only Phoenix sings my songs. Anyone else who tries, dies.
What are you doing?
Nothing.